talking Ball State. Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State. Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells, Schumann, Bell Tower, and Worthen. Fans all over from Muncie to Berlin. Getting Concannons, Carters, and Greeks. All right, everyone out there in Cardinal land, welcome to another live edition of Ball State of the Union, your number one Ball State football podcast. By the fans, for the fans. We're talking current headlines, exclusive interviews with Cardinal athletes and coaches, and fun off-the-wall debates that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And as always, when you hear that beautiful, sultry voice, you know we're about to be doing one thing, and that one thing is talking Ball State. I am John, as always, host by our good friend as well, Colin from Ball State Football Talk. Willie Sneed, Ball State Football Hall of Famer, may be back with us at some point. He had something come up last minute, so if he's able to join us throughout the evening, he will jump in as well. So before we get into our preview for this week for the Eastern Michigan Eagles, which we got someone from the Eastern Michigan Twitterverse here. He's going to be coming on here in just a second. But Colin, before I jump into all of our business like we always do, big win for you last week. I know we talked about it on the post game last Friday. How are we feeling since the Kent State game? And even Kent State getting a big win last night. How do you feel about that win last week and where it puts us for the rest of this season?
Feeling pretty great. Bowl game is on the table. We got to take care of this game against Eastern Michigan here. But that last week game really gave me some positivity for the future. I'm going to the game, the Eastern Michigan game. After seeing us win against Kent State, there was no way I wasn't going to follow up and see us close out home the right way. Hopefully we get a bowl game, because that's all that really matters. I mean, if we get a bowl game, most people will be satisfied with that.
Yeah, and so to get to a bowl game, it's going to require them to win this game. So we'll get to that more here in just a second. So before we jump in, our two things, as always. Number one, Ball State of the Union is a proud partner with the Shop Indy. That is www.theshopindy.com. Use that code BSUnion at checkout, and you'll get free shipping on your order. Anything they got on there, you can use that code and you'll get free shipping. They got Ball State, they got the Colts, they got the Pacers, Indiana Fever, all kinds of other colleges in Central Indiana. Use that code BSUnion at checkout and you will get free shipping. And also, Ball State of the Union is, as always, a proud member of the College Huddle. The College Huddle is a nationwide group of independently made college football podcasts. So if you're interested in college football at all, and you like our show and you want to find other shows that are similar to us, go to the College Huddle, check it out. You'll find us there. You'll find all kinds of other schools, all kinds of different conferences, talks, everything as the playoffs are heating up. They got all kinds of stuff there. So check out the College Huddle. You won't be disappointed. So here we are in the last stretch of the season here, Colin, and the last home game for Ball State is going to be this weekend. So we need to have someone on to tell us a little bit more about the opponent, the Eastern Michigan Eagles. So I scoured the internet. I tried to find who I could. I found who I think is the best man for the job to tell everyone out there who's a Ball State fan to get them to know a little bit more about Eastern Michigan. So here he is. You'll see him if you're an Eastern Michigan fan on Twitter. If you're a Ball State fan, you might have seen him as well. This is Vanzi, who I'm going to dub the number one Eastern Michigan fan on Twitter. Vanzi, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all that you guys do. I was checking out some of your previous episodes to prepare for this, so you guys do a great show. Little bummed that Willie had to step off. I was pretty excited there because he's an individual who's been on my fantasy team, a couple times over the years. So, very cool to, see him involved in a podcast like this. So I'm excited to talk MAC football with you guys.
Yeah, so hopefully he'll be back. We'll see. He's got some family obligations going for tonight, so he might be back. We don't know. It's kind of a last minute thing. So yeah, before we kind of jump into this week, I always ask all of our people out there, you've made a name for yourself on social media as being kind of the Eastern Michigan guy. How did that account really start, and maybe what prompted you to make that account?
Yeah, I mean, so being in southeastern Michigan, it's kind of everyone in this area seems to be a Michigan fan, Michigan State fan, and we got some dreaded Ohio State fans who kind of come up the Toledo way and all of that. So I went back to school at EMU after a year off after community college, and when I'd watch a Michigan game, I'd be tweeting things out. So I started kind of doing that with EMU stuff. Being a transfer student, I was just looking for a way to get involved in campus life. There wasn't a whole lot going on at that time, especially for a transfer student. So sports kind of became that avenue. It was more, I was just kind of tweeting to myself, and then slowly it started catching on, right? 100 followers, 200 followers. I think it's up to like 4.5 thousand followers now. Not so much football, but I had a basketball tweet that ended up on Sports Center. They put the full name out there and everything, which was pretty cool for SC Top 10. And then it started being coaches would interact with me, players would interact with me. Guys like Max Crosby would see me out at tailgates, like when he would come back his rookie year and like, hey, you're that Twitter guy. So next thing I knew, it just really took off. And, not the biggest fan base, but those who are passionate and who do care, we care quite a bit. And it's become almost like a little bit of a family. I can't remember the last time I had to eat my own food or drink my own drink at a tailgate.
Oh, there you go. Very nice. Yeah, we similar thing for us, a smaller fan base, but the fans that are out there and make themselves known are very passionate, and so we're in a similar spot where we're able to kind of slowly grow this thing up. And yeah, it's good to see other people out there doing the same thing throughout the conference. So, real quick, we'll just give everyone out there a brief overview of the all-time series against Eastern Michigan. Again, these teams have been playing each other for a long time. Ball State leads the all-time series between Eastern Michigan and Ball State, 37-26-2. A little bit more evenly split here in recent years, though, 5-5 in the last 10 meetings. And actually, Eastern Michigan won the last meeting back in 2023 at Eastern Michigan, a 24-10 win for the Eagles. So let's look at the 2025 Eastern Michigan Eagles here, Vanzi. Give me the big picture. What have you seen so far this year? Are you guys meeting expectations for the fans preseason? Kind of just give us a snapshot look into where Eastern Michigan football is as of this moment.
Yeah, I'd say with the Chris Creighton era, right, it's always been kind of after the first couple of years during his tenure, it's been around that 6-7 win mark. Last season finished with 5 wins. The second half, nosedive, so to speak, kept them out of a bowl game. And I think coming into this year, you're at the expectation, the hope is, hey, we're going to make a bowl game. Really a tough non-conference schedule, able to get a win over Louisiana. But really what has stood out was the loss to Long Island. So that kind of skewed everything to kind of a negative sense. But since then, the team has been playing better. They were within, for most of the game, within 1 score against Kentucky. They had a chance against Central Michigan. They had a chance against Ohio, a very good MAC school, ended up losing by 8. They beat BG. They could have beat Buffalo. Came down to a 2-point play in overtime where if they kick it, they tie it. So really, they've been in every game outside of maybe you could argue the Miami of Ohio game, but they were closer than a lot of other schools in that aspect there, and probably the Texas State game week 1. So not going bowling right now, just kind of playing for pride, for that the program status, which is very important. But also at the same time, got an opportunity now against Ball State, opportunity then the week after that to potentially ruin semi-rival, Western Michigan in their season. So still a lot to play for this team. Hasn't been up to the normal expectations, because if you look at the Eastern Michigan Eagles during the Coach Creighton era, after the first couple of years, one of the more consistent teams around in the MAC at that 6-7 win mark. Haven't had that high water mark of like a Toledo or something like that where they're winning the MAC title or anything like that, but it's been year after year 6-7 wins. So these last 2 years have been a little bit of a disappointment.
Okay. So I have my first question here, and it's not even necessarily from me, but we take questions throughout the show from all of our fans out there. So again, if anyone's listening to this, feel free to shoot in any questions that you guys have throughout the show, and we'll answer them as they go. So before Colin gets his claws in here and figures out a little bit more of the X's and O's and the guys on the team, we have a burning question that I know a lot of people have been wondering for a long time, and that is, what was the deal with the gray turf?
Yeah, so the gray turf, it was kind of just something, where they wanted an identity, right? So Coach Creighton, he came in, and the model was, hey, you know what? We'll play anybody, anytime, anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's a parking lot. So they went out and they made the field look like a parking lot, and it's been adopted, right? Us Eastern Michigan fans love the gray turf for the most part. It's the identity, right? You know, we have this year we went with a black uniform, but in the past we've had gray uniforms, things of that nature. You know, just really that hardworking mantra. You see things like, you know, those who have the biggest hits, they come in carrying sledgehammers. You know, usually you'll see somebody who means a lot to the program, you know, like past presidents or whatever it may be of the university, running out onto the field carrying this huge pipe wrench, right? You know, and I mean, you know, some of the biggest pipe wrenches you've ever seen. So it's that hardworking blue collar mindset. You know, and Ypsilanti's that kind of town. We're in the Rust Belt, so to speak, right? You know, automotive manufacturing back in the World War II era, you know, the bomber plants, manufacturing airplanes and things of that nature. So really just trying to tap into the Ypsilanti community. And, you know, Ypsilanti, Eastern Michigan, we've never had the nicest things. It's always been, hey, you know what, we got to work harder than everybody else. You know, we have to battle for our nice things, and that carries over to the mindset with the gray turf. Now, I know it's probably, you know, a lot of Ball State fans are probably like, oh, thank goodness this is a home game. We don't have to watch it on that gray turf. You know, I will tell you this, you end up getting used to it, right? You know, so for me, sometimes it's almost like jarring if I go out on like a different school's field. I'm like, man, this turf is really great. This is throwing me off. It's probably the same for, you know, like a Ball State fan seeing the gray turf.
For sure, yeah, it's a little bit of a home field advantage, I would think, somewhat for you guys, because it probably throws people off somewhat. So,
yeah, our 3 wins have been at home this year, so maybe it's because of the gray turf.
There you go. We could be onto something here. All right, I know Colin, he likes to kind of dive into more of individual players and stuff like that. So I'm gonna kick it over to him here and let him kind of pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Van Z, Noah Kim leads the MAC in passing yards. If he's not 1, he's 2. And the running back seems to be highly graded by like some PFF accounts, stuff like that. Offensively, though, what can fans expect from Eastern Michigan in general?
Yeah, I would say since maybe the Brogan Roback era, this is the best offense I've seen at EMU, you know, as far as individual talent. You know, Noah Kim, former Michigan State guy, Coastal Carolina guy, he's come in, he's doing a great job with the team. I believe it's 15-6 touchdown to interception ratio. So he's really been a stabilizing force, doing a great job there. Sneakily athletic, being able to run. Looking at the stats, it gets a little confusing this time of year because you've had some teams who have played yesterday, so they got that extra game in the stats and everything. But coming into this week, he was the leading passer in the MAC. I can't remember the last time that we had that happen this late in the season for Eastern Michigan quarterback. Dante McMillan, great guy, hard worker, former Weber State running back. He had an injury last year where, you know, going into the season, everything you heard was, hey, he's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big year. So that injury hurt his ankle against Washington. I think it was week 2, really changed the course of the Eastern Michigan football season last year. Really a talented back. He's got a lot of speed. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And then Tavier Dunlap is another guy, a former Michigan running back, who will come in and spell him and be kind of the power running back more so there. Some other guys on offense, Nick Devereaux, he's really emerged. He had 2 catches last year. He's had a couple games with 2 touchdowns. I think he's 5th in the MAC in receiving touchdowns right now, really emerging as a deep threat. Joshua Long, a JUCO transfer. He's come in and he's been one of the more involved Eastern Michigan tight ends here in quite some time.
Okay. And then are there any, on the defensive side, what would you say is the strength of the defense? And if I'm not mistaken, I was watching like a post-game press conference for you guys, and it seemed like there was maybe a safety that's been moved to linebacker. Could you maybe talk about that?
Yeah, probably talking about Bryce Llewellyn there. You know, so he's never a good sign when a safety linebacker is your leading tackler. But he's another guy who came in last year, transfer product. A lot of individuals were talking about him. Hey, this is somebody we're really excited about. He was slowed by injury. He's really come on this season, and just doing a great job for the team. Kind of a downhill guy. Really, I think with the defense, right, it's averaging 31.7 points per game allowed. So it hasn't been great, but it is something where, all offseason long, Coach Creighton had talked about, hey, we're going to play our best football at the end of the season. We're going to play our best football at the end of the season. And that is definitely happening. You definitely see that on the defensive side of the ball. Bowling Green, they had a lot of issues, right? So that aided in Eastern Michigan's performance. But hey, you know what? You got to take that. But also, I think when you look at the schedule, it's coming back around where it's not as hard of matchups anymore. But still, that defense early on in the season was very tough to watch. It's coming on, starting to get a little bit more pass rush. That was something you saw hardly no pass rush early in the season. Starting to see some guys kind of rise up, Bryce Wellon being one of them.
So if you were Ball State, how would you attack this Eastern Michigan defense? Is it the secondary that's the weakness? It seems like the pass rush has maybe stepped up. Maybe the front seven's not the weakness anymore. What would you say?
I think for me, right, with your guys' quarterback, Kelly, if he's able to move and run, I think that's something, you look at the Long Island game, that game was really aided for the Sharks by their run game, being able to get the quarterbacks off the edge and take off run and things of that nature. So I'm curious to see how this Eastern Michigan defense does against a mobile quarterback. They're going to have to be assignment sound and stay home. I also, though, on the deep passes, had some injuries there. So I think that would be another issue. But I might be wrong, but Kelly doesn't really scare me in that sense. Where he scares me is if he's able to run, those read options, things of that nature.
So if Eastern Michigan is to win this game, if they're going to pull off the win, what has to go right for their offense? And then what is their offensive weakness as well?
Yeah, I would say what have to go right for their offense. I would say protect the football. I think you get late in the season, MAC battles like this, it's going to be, hey, who wins the turnover battle? So there was a couple games, Central Michigan, a badly timed interception by Noah Kim changed the outcome of that game when Eastern Michigan was coming back. So I think Eastern Michigan, if they can maintain time of possession, not turn over the football, they'd be sitting pretty good. What was the second part of it?
The weakness of the offense, and then what has to go right offensively, and maybe even defensively. Yep. What has to go right for Eastern Michigan to pull out that W?
Yeah, and I would say probably the weakness on offense, I would say it can vary by game. It varies by what the scheme is. They've had some injuries at the wide receiver room, so Nick Devereaux's really came on. Sometimes he seems to, he's probably more of a straight line guy, right? So, is the offense able to create separation to have those passes there? Some of the more shifty receivers have been out, lost some guys in a transfer portal last year. So I would think that's probably a weakness. Also, sometimes, it's been where when you need the run, third and short, fourth and short, the run game hasn't been there. But really, I think that depends based on the scheme. For the defensive side of things, again, I think it's going to be the turnover battle, right? Can Eastern Michigan force the turnover when they need to? Can they keep Kelly in the pocket? If Kelly gets over 70, 80 yards rushing like he did last week, I think they're going to be in for a long day.
All right, my two final questions, John, and then you can go in. So I see the Michigan, I think it's pillows, blankets behind you.
Oh, yeah.
Are most Eastern fans both Michigan and Eastern Michigan fans? And then my second question, Shaq Van played for Eastern Michigan for, I think, 5 years, and then coached there as well. And then now he's a coach at Ball State. Your name is Van Z. I just want to know, what do you remember about Shaq Van's time at Eastern Michigan and what kind of player he was there?
Yeah, Shaq Van, man. lot of memories with Shaq Van because, and the joke always was he was in town long enough to have a street named after him. It just felt like he was here forever, So, and then again, as a student or like as a coach, great to see that he's doing so well in the coaching ranks. Disappointed that we ever let him get out of Ypsilanti. Would love to see him on the staff. But yeah, he was a long time running back. And made a lot of plays. And he was kind of one of those guys, right? When he came in, the program was changing and starting to go to bowl games every year. So very grateful for his impact on that. I would say as far as Eastern Michigan fans rooting for the University of Michigan, it kind of varies, right? You're right there. So I grew up a Michigan fan. I was born at the U of M hospital. I became a EMU fan when I went to school there. So you either get, those individuals who are like, yeah, I also root for Michigan, or you get the individuals who it's like, well, Michigan thinks they're better than the MAC, they're disrespecting us or whatever it may be. So then they just go the opposite way and completely hate on U of M.
Gotcha.
So Vanti, I got one more question about this game, and then a couple extra questions that don't have to do with this game as much. So I guess the biggest question here is, what's the prediction? What the game's at 12 on Saturday? It's 3:30 on Saturday. What's happened in this game in your eyes? What happened?
Yeah, I think one, it's great that it's going to be on a fall Saturday, and I think the weather's supposed to be pretty good, so that'll be nice, right? Avoid those dreaded MACtion temperatures for at least one more week. I think good game, back and forth, occasional big play here and there. I think Eastern Michigan football right now, and I know the Ball State listeners won't want to hear it, I think Eastern Michigan football is playing their best football of the season. They've kind of figured out their pieces. They are the most injured team in the MAC, really. But they have, they're playing for heart. They're playing for their why, as Coach Creighton says. So I think it'll be Eastern Michigan 24, Ball State 21. I think Rudy Kessinger, who's leading the MAC in scoring, I think he'll come on and in the final minute kick a field goal to give Eastern the W.
Okay, fair enough. All right, your profile picture is you and Max Crosby.
Yep.
Is he your favorite Eastern Michigan player of all time? And if not, who is?
Oh, man. Yeah, so Max was a student when I was there, got to see him. He was just kind of the skinny guy who was super quick off the edge. Yeah, I wasn't sure that he could do it in the NFL, right? I didn't know that he had the ability to bulk up like that. Great to see the success. And that's Eastern Michigan assistant general manager, Max Crosby's the assistant GM for our football program. Maybe Willie can get in there at Ball State and do something like that. But you don't know. I would say probably, man, and there's been so many guys, right, over the years who have reached out to me, and maybe hooked me up with swag, helped to promote my Twitter, things like that. So, before my time, Charlie Batch, he still comes around. A lot of respect for him. So many guys who came through here. Brian Dooley, offensive lineman, played many games, set the program record for most games started. Chad Ryland, a kicker, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Samson Evans, I could go on and on and on. Samson Evans, just a bulldozer running back. Brock Roman, offensive lineman, just so many guys. Like, my personal favorites are the individuals who I've seen out and about. Maybe I had class with, maybe I saw them, somewhere, or, who have been just so nice to me and done so much for me, rather it's helping the Twitter, hooking me up, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I worked for the Indianapolis Colts for a while, and so his time there wasn't long, but Andrew Wiley is probably the one who tops my list of Eastern Michigan guys just because of the time. He was always really very nice. He was a funny guy. He wasn't there for super long. He's gone on to have a nice career with the Chiefs, and I think he's in Washington now. So Andrew Wiley guy. I wanted to ask you one non-basketball question, because this is a story that came out a little while back, and I don't know if I've really heard much about it since, and maybe you can kind of brief me into maybe what really happened or where we're at now. There was a story about Eastern Michigan basketball that came out a little while back with maybe some allegations of potentially of something with gambling, basically. Can you fill me in on what happened there and maybe where they're at right now?
Yeah, this is the modern era, right? All these parlays. I don't know if any of the listeners follow the MLB, but what's going on with the two pitchers from the Cleveland Guardians, and then you have the NBA scandal that's going on that just came out. Obviously, the Eastern Michigan one, much smaller scale, and you've seen that at other schools as well here in the modern era. But really, what occurred is multiple Eastern Michigan games were flagged by different markets for odd betting patterns, so it'd be on the first half point spread, right? So it's like one game, I don't know, maybe Central Michigan's favored by 6, you get into the half, Eastern's down 12, and then the second half, Eastern comes back. It happened a couple of times. I know one of the reporters from the Toledo Blade did a great job and said, was able to find out that, hey, these bets were placed in Mississippi. Wow, that's, it's really some good reporting there. But really, it seems as if this betting pattern focused on some players who are no longer in the program. Jalen Terry, Deshaun Nelson, Jalen Billingsley. 2 of the 3 were transfers who came into the program. Reading the articles through ESPN, things of that nature, they said, hey, we're going to cooperate. The NCAA came in, made copies of their phones, right? So they could go through it, all that. They cooperated. End of the season, they're out of eligibility. They all graduated. They said, all right, we're no longer cooperating. Mm-hmm. So very odd. Really, though, what's their incentive for cooperating? You have no more eligibility, right? Could you potentially indict yourself or incriminate yourself at that point by something with the NCAA, which gets you in trouble legally? So maybe that's why they didn't cooperate. I can't really speak on that. Disappointing story. I think it's happening more so than we probably know. For me, it was pretty decent Eastern Michigan basketball season, made the MAC tournament, first time in a few years, first time since the Rob Murphy era. But to me, as a fan, you want to think that your school is the most noble and in morals and ethics and things of that nature, to have individuals who were suspected of betting, right, against your team and potentially impacting the outcome of the game to continue to play them. I have a hard time with that, but you look at some of the games. There was a game against Wright State where it looked like they were going to get blown out of the water in the first half, came back. I think they ended up winning by 12 or 15 points. So I don't know what the truth is. We'll probably never know because obviously not cooperating with the NCAA anymore. But, yeah, not a good look.
Yeah, obviously we talk football here on Ball State of the Union, but I do a basketball show as well. And I've said over there, college basketball, especially at the mid-major level, is like the perfect environment for this to happen. Because if you think about it, you see people in the NBA getting this huge money. You see guys at the top of college basketball with NIL now getting this big money. And you see guys jumping up from the mid-major and getting these money. Well, these guys down in the mid-major level are kind of like feeling like they're the only ones who aren't making any money at this point for the most part. So not that I'm saying it's right by any means, but you could tell that this was like the perfect environment for something like this to happen. And like you said, it's definitely happening more than just at Eastern Michigan. It's just people haven't got caught yet, pretty much. So,
yeah, and I probably the same at Ball State, but I don't think Eastern Michigan's NIL, is enough to offset some of the potential gains that an individual who maybe didn't have a lot growing up could gain from this impact. Now, obviously, if you're a surefire NBA guy, you're not going to do it because you don't want to affect that potential career. But if you're just a MAC guy, maybe a third team all conference or less, that's very tempting. And I think it feels to a lot of individuals, hey, out of sight, out of mind. What we're betting on this MAC game, they're not going to catch it. But I think actually what happened in this case is hold on, why are so many people betting so much on this first half MAC point spread that it actually might have worked against these individuals in this case?
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. I'm curious to see, like you're talking about the Guardians and, the other stuff going on in the NBA. This stuff is not going away anytime soon. So Colin, I know he had something else he wanted to throw out there. I don't know what it could be at this point. It could be about betting, it could be about anything.
Vanzi, as an Eastern Michigan fan, who's your least favorite team in the MAC?
Ooh,
Is
great
it
question.
Western Michigan? Is it Central Michigan? Is it NIU since they're leaving? Who do you least like in the MAC this year?
Yeah, so where I live, I'm kind of between Ypsilanti and Toledo, Ohio. Right. So I had a lot of buddies who went to Toledo, Ohio. Central Michigan fans, hey, they'll drink beer with you, they'll give you food, great people, right? Western fans, and I've had some tough times there, but the Toledo fans, they're kind of like the Dallas Cowboy, New York Yankee fans of the MAC. Right. It's just, and there's been different times. MAC tournament, I think 2017, maybe probably 2017. Eastern Michigan loses to Toledo in the MAC tournament. Some going back and forth. It's got drunk Toledo fans on the concourse yelling at Eastern Michigan parents. Kind of had a little bit of a pushing match there. Just kind of some crazy stuff. Me and my dad's a big sports fan as myself, so we went to the MAC championship one game. We're in the end zone. General admission seating where we're in EMU stuff. EMU's not even playing. We haven't been to the MAC championship game. And like the guys behind my dad were like trying to take his hat. And, my dad's a senior citizen, right? And somebody like bopped him on the head, Toledo fans. And it's like, okay, you know what? Like this makes it easy to not like Toledo. And the fact that they're usually one of the better schools year in and year out in the MAC, it adds a little bit more fun to dislike them.
Yeah. Good answer. And a couple more things and we'll let you go. I just noticed it. This wasn't going to be something I was going to bring up. I did notice it. Can you show everyone your shirt? I saw your shirt there for a second.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The MACtion.
The MACtion. Sometimes people will be like, oh, it's such a gimmick. Like it's the MAC. Like we have a gray turf. We just beat a school that parades a cat around. I mean,
True.
let's release the MACtion. It's going, it's been quite fun this year to see it, the different merchandise. I got a hoodie. It's a cool little thing. It says you wouldn't survive a quarter in Ypsilanti. So,
yeah, that was. I remember we talked about it when that comment came out. I think it was on a YouTube video somewhere, and it really blew up. And teams like Eastern Michigan, people like that, have really leaned into it. I wish Ball State would kind of lean into it more, like you're talking about with Pudge the Cat at Bowling Green. You guys with the MACtion. I wish we would do something more kind of fun like that as well.
Well, you guys got the awesome Charlie Cardinal logo, they
got rid of it.
It's gone. They got rid of it.
Man.
Yeah, the dancing Charlie. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. So see, we don't even have that.
Oh, that's too bad. That thing's awesome.
I know. So yeah, that was a big point of contention this summer amongst the fan base. It was actually more split from an outsider looking in. It was more split than you'd think. A lot of people like the traditional Cardinal. I'm pretty 50-50. Colin's staunchly in the Dancing Charlie camp. I don't remember what Willie was in. I think he's kind of more into both. Obviously, he was a player. He wore that current logo. But anyways, my last question. This has nothing to do with Eastern Michigan at all. But if you're in Southeast Michigan, are you a Detroit Tigers fan?
Oh, yeah, big Detroit Tigers fan. Love the Tigers.
I'm a huge Tigers fan as well. Are they going to find a way to keep Tarek Skubal? He just won the Cy Young again today. Are they going to be able to keep him?
I think they'll keep him through the trade deadline. I could go on and on about this, but it drives me nuts because I'm at the age where, hey, we had Scherzer, we had Verlander. Let them both go. I mean, Scherzer for free agency, Verlander, you got nothing back for him, basically. At some point, you got to pay these guys. Skubal's the face of the team. He's earned it. At some point, you got to write that check. I don't know. I think my gut feeling is they're probably not going to lock him up to an extension. I mean, I urge people to Google what his agent said today.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was very odd, like some Scooby-Doo type references. So I don't know where this one's going, but it does not seem good. If the previous owner, Mike Ilitch, was there, I'd say, yeah, probably. But.
Yes. All right. Well, I won't bog on the Ball State fans too much. Maybe Vancy, maybe we'll start a Tigers podcast. How about that?
There we go. Absolutely.
All right, perfect. So, all right, well, everyone out there, keep up with Vanzy. If you want to keep tabs on Eastern Michigan, all things Eastern Michigan, he is your go-to source. So, Vanzy, we appreciate it. Good luck for the rest of the season, except for Saturday, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, good luck to all the Ball State fans. Hope everyone enjoys watching the game. Don't miss that gray turf too much.
There we go. All right, thanks, man.
Yep.
All right, so that was Vanzy from the Eastern Michigan Twitter sphere. I thought he was great. He had a lot of good stuff to say, and I'm happy we were able to find him. Colin, what'd you think of our interaction with him? Yeah, pretty informative, and he kind of let us know exactly what to expect this weekend.
Seemed very knowledgeable. Did have me a little concerned because our next game is Eastern Michigan. I'm gonna be at the shoe for that. I'll be in Muncie, but then the game after that is Toledo. So I
Mm.
was kind of considering if we win against Eastern Michigan, maybe making the drive to Toledo because where I'm from, it's the same distance to Toledo that it is for me to go to Muncie. So I
Okay.
figured maybe I'd go. But he made it seem like it's a lion's den in there that people are kind of nasty. When I went to the Western Michigan game, I was sitting front row right behind the bench, and I was cheering at first because we had stuff to cheer about, maybe in the first quarter. And then people were in my ear, yelling, clapping, giving it to me. It turned out to be a parent of a player who was like really nice. But yeah, people let you have it in Western Michigan. And if he's saying Toledo's more rowdy than Western Michigan, and I'm walking in there alone, because I really will, but we gotta handle business at Eastern Michigan first. Let's not jump too
There you
far
go.
ahead.
You're not one to shy away from trash talking. So I think you'll be okay. Now,
Oh
does
no,
Ball
oh
does
no.
Ball State have the team to back you up? I don't know about that, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Before we get on to the news again, there's not been much news really since the last game. It's been pretty quiet for the most part. Again, if you got any questions or comments, please get them into us. It does not appear Willie's going to be able to make it back tonight, so expect him back on Sunday when we do our recap show. But if you got any questions for Colin and I, get them into chats wherever you're watching, and we will read them all by the end of the show. So, Colin, let's jump into. There's just two things real quick for the news this week. They're pretty basic, but I wanted to get your thoughts on them, especially if you're going to the game. That works out pretty well. So
Okay.
the first one here is, Colin, we got the rare noon kickoff for home game for Ball State football. So traditionally in the past, throughout my time as a Ball State fan, which goes back to like 2008, 2009 range, our home games are traditionally at 2:30 on Saturdays, that is. So we saw a little bit of a reprieve from that this year. We had some games at 3:30, but usually they're at 2. Noon is not a common occurrence for a Muncie kickoff. They happen from time to time, but I'm sure this will have an effect somewhat on attendance, which again, attendance is never that great to begin with. But Colin, you're going to the game. It's at noon. Any thoughts on this? Obviously, that creates an earlier morning for you traveling in.
Does bum me out. I'll have to leave at like 9:30 if I want to get there at noon. And then not just that, but at the last tailgate, John and I had such a good experience. I want to get there a little bit early and see the parents, talk to, the players, parents, and fans and see what they're thinking, how we can improve the show or, how the last show was, etc. And of course, you want to have a little bit of drink. You want to have a couple drinks before you go into the game. And then it's like, man, you guys got me out here drinking at 11 a.m. And I know they're not forcing me to put a drink in my hand, but it's like, you knew I was going to come tailgate. I wasn't going to do it with water. This isn't BYU. So it's kind of a bummer, but of course, I think they do that sometimes when the games aren't like highly, like if a ton of people aren't going to watch it, and that might have just been the way the cookie crumbled. It's not like a Wednesday MACtion night game. That was a ton of fun. They're only giving us one MACtion game at night now. I don't know if they took us off the 2 MACtion game schedule or whatever, but I used to feel like we had 2, and now we just get one. It is what it is, John. I mean, the noon, I would prefer a 2:30.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a 3:30 or even like 7 would have been nice. If they did the NIU game at night, I would have been there. So yeah, sometimes when you do the games at noon, you're missing out on people that could have traveled and came down. And like, I want to see the Cardinal walk. I want to see stuff like that. So I want to get there a little early. It's a bummer.
Yeah, and the only thing more rare in my time, again, they do noon games from time to time, but is a night weekend game. I don't know that I've ever really remembered one of those. Those always would be midweek, basically. So, and you're talking about the midweek MACtion. Obviously, we had that game, and you're alluding to we only have the one MACtion game. We've in the past always had 2. I almost think we should be guaranteed every team 2 games. If they're going to keep doing MACtion, I think they should lean into it even more than they do. I think there should be each team. You should have one home MACtion and one road game. So one midweek at home and one on the road. I think they should just do it throughout the entire season. I think they should just span it out the entire way, do a Tuesday, Wednesday, because, by the time, late October, early November comes around, you've got your fill of football and people are excited, but it's that early season and part of the year where I think it's the biggest demand would be there, and people are clamoring for football once it comes back in August. And then, I think that would be a better time. And so if they need to spread this out and give everyone 2 games, one at home and one on the road, I think that would be fine personally. But I'm not in charge of any of that, so what do I know? Okay,
John,
yeah,
week 0 MACtion.
I think that'd be great. I think every team should play week 0. That they should
Yeah.
take a stranglehold on that. I've said that for a long time now. So, yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's noon kick. If you're going to the game, obviously be prepared for that. It's not the traditional 2:30 kick that Ball State fans are kind of used to. So, the other thing that we have, again, it's pretty slow news week, so nothing too crazy going on up there in Cardinal land up in Muncie. But the other one I have, I'm trying to pull it up here. Sorry, my computer's being a little slow. Is obviously the uniforms as always. Again, we're leaning into this white helmet, and I think we got a little bit of an inside scoop on why that is and why they're not really changing anything. So a little Cardinal might have told me that I believe they lost their full-time equipment manager before the season started, and so I don't know that they've hired someone to replace them fully, so they're kind of doing it by committee right now. And so I think they're trying to mitigate the extra work that comes with changing out helmets, changing out face masks, changing out decals, and just focusing on that. So that's kind of what I've been told. Hopefully, in the future that'll change, and they'll be able to have full-time staff again and change stuff up more because it's fun. I don't hate looking traditional every week, but it is fun to kind of change things up. So, Colin, what are your thoughts here? Yeah.
Throw your hat in the ring. That's the first one. You already worked for the equipment management team. You might as well be the head equipment manager person. You're moving back to Indiana next year. I say John throws his hat in the ring. Second, John, what happened to the fits you used to post with the actual, like, when they revealed the uniform? What happened to that? You got a lot of haters. Then the people fought back at the haters. Where did that go? And then thirdly, this is like the 5th time we wore this uniform set. I feel like why do we always, I know we talked about this before, but like we can't mix it up a little bit. Like if the helmets are going to be the helmets, that's one thing, but like can we maybe get different colored, like, I don't know, pants or something? Like John, am I tripping? Like,
okay, so the first question, the first thing, I don't think they can afford me at this point. I think I'm too expensive. That's number one. Okay. Number two, the fits, I don't know. I forgot to do the fits. I need to get back at them. That's my fault. Any fit fans out there, I apologize for not keeping up with that for you guys. And the last thing, I don't know. You maybe go an all red look. You go red pants, red top. There's other things you could do here. But again, they're trying to keep it simple. I can't fault them for that, given the situation that I believe they're in. That's kind of what I've heard. So, if you're a traditional, Ball State fan and you like traditional uniforms, then this season is for you. I'll tell you that much. This season is for you. So that kind of wraps up the you got something else here?
I do have a topic I want to bring up.
Okay.
I always get on Ball State about the post-game press conferences. Now we got our post-game press conference. We got the pre-game press conference, whatever. They're back on their stuff. But I want to give Kevin Messenger and Jeff Mitchell a shout out. Not only did we get our post-game press conference, but I saw that Kent State got one. So that means we're one of the few schools in the MAC that provides an area for away teams to do post-game press conferences after the game. So I'm sure Vanzy will be happy for that. Eastern Michigan fans will be happy for that. And kudos to Ball State for being one of the 4 or 5 schools only out of 12 or 13, however many it is, that provides a place for the other team to get a post-game press conferences. That should be standard. John Steinbrecher, the MAC president, needs to get on that because that is ridiculous. If my team plays at Kent State, I shouldn't not get a post-game press conference. When they play here, they get a post-game press conference. You know what I mean? Like, that needs to be fixed ASAP because you want to grow the MAC. If you want to be viewed with the big dogs, you need to start acting like it. You know what I mean? So like, and this is not a shade at Ball State because we're doing it the right way. We're allowing people to get, places to do that. But this is shade to all the other people that don't. The Buffaloes, the Kent State, the people like that.
Yeah, figure it out. And yeah, you're shouting them out for doing a good job. Another thing, again, we talked a little bit of basketball on this today, and I believe Trey and I are jumping back on soon. I apologize. We haven't been on for about a week now. I've had a bunch of random crazy stuff going on, but The basketball is pumping those out too. They're pumping those out almost live, basically. Their post game presentations. So
Right.
shout out to those guys. They're all doing a good job over there with the
I think I
press
figured that
conference.
out though, John.
Yeah.
I think I figured out why the basketball post game press conference is just the coach and then the two players with him.
Mhm.
And ours is like separate. So I think they have to stitch the videos together, and that's why they come out a little later than the basketball post game press conferences. But what I like about the basketball ones that we actually don't get in the football one is you have player and player interaction. Like sometimes the players are talking to each other about the game. I wish we could get that actually like in our press conferences, and I wish we could get that on the together episodes because I think that's one thing we don't see enough. We saw it with like Kyle and Quay walking into the stadium that time on one of the episodes and just chatting. But like you never really see a post game because it's just one person, all right, next person, and then the coach, whatnot. So I think that might be why it takes a little bit longer. But you're on to something though, because Kent State dropped the post game press conference before we did. So I don't know if it's just like maybe we're slow at editing or something like that. But I've noticed that too.
But yeah, you've always been clamoring for press conferences, and you're getting them now. So I think your praise was well put there. Okay, so we got a couple more chances here for anyone. Again, put any questions or anything you got in there in any of the chats where you're watching, whether it be on Twitter, on YouTube, or on Facebook, and we will get them all read at the end of the show. Yeah, Colin, this is like an OG old school episode, just you and I on here. No Willie again. We miss Willie as well as always. But yeah, this is kind of how the show started back in the day. So I'm gonna do 3 chirps. I don't know if you want to start. Or you want me to? We can go wherever you want.
Go ahead and start.
Okay.
Go ahead and
so
start.
my three chirps for this week against Eastern Michigan. Number 1, do not let this game slip away. We already saw this once this year with Northern Illinois. We let a prime win on the schedule. And again, this is not going to be a gimme win by any means. Eastern Michigan's favored in this game slightly. But this is a game that Ball State has to find a way to win. We let that game against Northern Illinois slip away. So that means now we cannot allow this one to slip away. We that margin for error that we had in the schedule with this 4-game trek against Akron, against Northern Illinois, against Kent State, and now Eastern Michigan, that margin for error is gone now. So because there's a slim chance, I think all Ball State fans would agree, of us going in and winning at either Toledo or Miami, Ohio. Those are going to be tough places to go into on the road and win. So you cannot put yourself in a scenario where you have to win both of them if you want to go to a bowl game. So the best chance forward was winning Northern Illinois. But since that is gone, we have to find a way. Do not let this game slip away, because you're going to look back if you do and really be kicking yourself that we did that. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is pretty vague, but we got to slow down this Eastern Michigan offense. I think all of us out there who kind of follow the MAC and know they have a more dynamic offense than a lot of teams out there. So we got to find a way to slow this offense down. And I feel like our defense has done a pretty good job of that for the most part recently. If you look at the Kent State game last week, they held Kent State pretty well in check, and Kent State has put up points in pretty much a handful of their other games, except for against Ball State. You saw them last night. What did they score last night, Colin? 42 points?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure
so Ball State needs to find a way to get their defense to do that and hold Eastern Michigan to a substandard game on their offense. And lastly, that kind of blends right into my last one. I want this to be the Nathan Voorhees record game. I want him to break the single season sack record right now. Again, we called this way back, maybe in week 1 or 2, that he was on pace to do this, and he is right there, and he has a chance to do it this week. I know he's going to have family in town. I know this is his senior day. It's going to be senior day for all those guys. I would love it for him to break this record at home in front of the Ball State fans, in front of his family. So those are my 3 chirps. Don't let this game slip away. Slow down Eastern Michigan's offense, and have Nathan Voorhees break the single season sack record this Saturday at noon in Schumann Stadium. Colin, what are your 3 chirps for this week?
So my first chirp is limit the passing. Noah Kim, like Vanzi was saying, he's either first or second in passing yards before this week started. I know there's some midweek MACtion games, so it gets a little fuzzy there, but he's a dog. He's a dog, and it's kind of a slept-on secret in the MAC. Like, if you don't really watch the MAC closely enough, you'll kind of just skim over. You're like, okay, there's Parker Navarro, DeQuan Finn coming back to the MAC after his year at Baylor. That's a big story. even, before the season, people would think Drew Pine, like, always going to Bowling Green, but he hasn't had a great year. So Noah Kim has kind of gone, under the, under the eye of the average viewer. So, and you made a good point with the defense. Like, Kent State exploded last night. NIU, I was just watching the game before the pod against UMass. They had 24 points, and the second quarter wasn't even over, and we lost 21-7 or something like that. So this defense has really got to key in. I would say the number one person I want them to key in on is the passing game. I know sometimes we have a bend don't break kind of attitude in the secondary. JoJo Lewis, can he get that fourth pick? That would be incredible. Now, second, this is one I actually picked up from watching the post-game press conference because pregame press conference from Eastern Michigan. Coach Creighton was talking, and then they had the player that was like the safety that went up to linebacker that's now like their leading tackler. He was talking about targeting Kyle Kelly's ball security because he said normally quarterbacks don't have as good ball security as a running back. So with him running the ball 22, 23, 26 times sometimes in a game, they're going to be punching at that ball, trying to do that peanut punch, getting a turnover. We need to make sure Kyle knows about that. He's locked in. He's got two hands on the ball, and he makes them pay. Sometimes when the defense is too locked in on trying to rip it out, they're not really making the tackle. So if he can get out of the play and make a touchdown on something like that, that'd be huge. Also, with the limiting of the, ball security for Kyle Kelly, he's got to watch the interceptions, just turnovers in general. We can't give them too many opportunities, especially with a gunslinger quarterback like Noah Kim. Finally, number 3, don't play with your food, okay? Because we had Kent State come into the house, and I know Kent State exploded last week, and I know they looked good, or yesterday, and I know they looked good, but we're a better team than Kent State. We're a better team than Eastern Michigan. We're a better team than Akron. So when we play these teams at home and we know we're better than them, don't play with your food. You got to take care of business. When a cat is hungry, it's not just swatting around the mouse. It just eats it. Don't play with your food. You got to go in there. You got to take it. We can't go in there, start slow. You need to go in there, get the game, and put your foot on their neck. Don't play with your food. That's number 3.
Okay. Well, that'll segue right into our prediction for the game. So it looks like Ball State is plus 2.5. So, they're almost a whole field goal underdog at home. Usually you get 3 points at home for that. So, at Eastern Michigan, are they saying here this would be almost a 6-point, almost a touchdown game? So the over-under is 50.5, so a little bit up from the Kent State game. So, Colin, with all that in mind, where does this land on Saturday?
So I've got us winning 23-20. So underneath that 50.5 points, and obviously we're covering the 2.5. I don't understand where Vegas is getting off on favoring Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan has 3 wins at home. They haven't won away. They lost to FCS school away. Like, they're dealing with the same stuff we are. We just got to make them pay. They're coming into the house. They think they're going to be the ones that step in our parade. Misery loves company. They literally said that during the press conference. Misery loves company. So we need to make sure they don't, come in and rain on the parade, make sure we don't go to a bowl game. They don't want us going to a bowl game. So, yeah, I don't know, John. I think we win 23-20. I got DC Pippen, 2 field goals on the day, and we get that W.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Everything in my head, I don't even know if I had everything in my gut is telling me that Ball State is going to end up losing this game. But I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to pick with my head. I'm going to pick with my heart. My gut is telling me that this is a game we're going to lose, but I'm not going to do that. I watched this offense last week.
Why?
What we saw from this offense last week, I don't know if we're going to be able to score enough points. I just don't know. But again, you saw Kent State. This defense can hold people down. So that's where I'm at. I think Eastern Michigan has a pretty good offense, and ours just struggles. But again, this game is at home. We've proven to be able to win games at home this year, 4-0 at home. So I'm going to pick Ball State to win by 1 point. I ain't give you a score. I'm just going to say we're going to win by 1 point. So if you want that to be 3-2, it can be 3-2. If you want it to be 55-54, it can be that. But my official prediction is Ball State wins by 1 point. So I don't really have an over/under pick here. I think we end up winning a close game based in my heart, and my gut is telling me that's not going to happen. So with that in mind, I'm going to say we win by 1 point, just so that I can say that I picked us to win. So that's kind of where I stand on the prediction.
When we win, John, it's normally a low-scoring game. That's why I picked 23-20. That defense held down Ohio. The defense held down Park Navarro in Ohio at home. And I'm expecting them to do the same thing, honestly. It's going to be nice weather. You can't complain. Like, I'm cold, nothing like that. It's like 68 degrees. Like, it's going to be a beautiful day for football. I'm expecting Nate to get those 2 sacks at least. Hopefully, has a hot day. Yeah, I think we're going to win this, John. And I feel almost as confident as I did going into that Kent State game. And I know the Kent State game was close, but I think Kent State is better than Eastern Michigan this year. I really do.
Could be. Yeah. So, okay. So we both got him as a win. I'm sure Willie's probably in the same boat. We always like to pick Ball State if we think we're going to win. So, okay. Will, if anyone has any last minute questions, go ahead and throw them in here. We got a couple from our good friend from, we were tailgating with him at Kent State, Mr. Scott Simborski over on Facebook. Colony's going to be in the same spot. So if you're going to be there, go check him out. And when we were there, he sent me over some pictures from last week when we were there, and I'll let me throw them up here real quick, or at least one of them.
Okay.
There we are. There's us with the man right there, Mr. Simborski. We're in. He's got the nice RV. He's in the back of that. Is it the white lot? I think he's in. He's in the back corner of the lot there. So yeah, it was a great time, and I'm sure if Colin is there, he'll be stopping by again.
For sure. And if any parents want to come and talk to Ball State of the Union, you can bring up anything. If you got corrections for the pod, like, hold on a second, I need credit from my kid, whatever. You got anything you need, you can come to the pod. If it's positive, negative, any fan interaction we appreciate, and all criticism is welcome.
There we go. So yeah, shout out Scott, and I'll just leave his picture up here because he has one other thing for us. So he had some 3 chirps as well. So I don't know if he copied and pasted this or if he's just trying to be emphasized. The offense needs to start fast. The offense needs to start fast, and the offense needs to start fast. So I take it Scott's big key for this game is the offense needs to start fast, which I tend to agree with. That has been a chirp of mine pretty much every week except for this week, because I always said Ball State, I'm going to have that until Ball State scores first. We actually did that against Kent State. Now, we didn't stay fast. We were up 10-0, and we'll let them get back and take the lead. So, Colin, what are your thoughts on Mr. Simborski here and his 3 chirps?
Super valid. I think I kind of said the same thing too. Like, don't play with your food. You need to run in there and take it. Like, we can't just go in there and kind of like, okay, the defense is going to hold him down. Defense is going to hold him down. Kyle will eventually make a play. I know he'll eventually make a play, but like, let's do some other stuff too. Like, let's not just put it all on Kyle. Let's get Keon involved because it is senior night. Keon deserves that too. Let's get Ty Robb involved. I'd love to see that. But honestly, I'm not going to pick and choose. If we can just have a good game plan going in there, just get whoever the hell involved, as long as we start fast.
There we go. Perfectly said. So, all right. That is going to do that portion of the show here. So, Colin, any last minute things you got? Anything you need to get off your chest that you haven't already? And, actually, hold on. Scott's still chiming in. He's got one more thing. Great point here. Actually, I didn't think about this. We need our first blowout game. Great point. Any of Ball State wins this year have not been blowouts. We've been blown out for sure, but we haven't had a big, I think Akron is maybe the biggest point differential in a game we've had so far. But yeah, we haven't had a big blowout in any game, not against New Hampshire, against nobody. So that's a good point as well, Scott. Yeah, we haven't had one of those. And Ball State's usually good for one of those, whether it be in the MAC or in non-conference, but they're usually good for one of those. So I'm with you. I would like that as well. So any last things here, Colin, before we sign off?
Just thank you to the fans. We're at 295 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're watching and you have not subscribed, make sure you go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We do a show 2 times a week. You can put the alerts on to let you know when we're about to go live. We just appreciate the fan support. Really, we're doing it for the people who love Ball State. We're doing it for parents of the players. We're doing it for the players. We're doing it for anybody that cares about Ball State in general, students, faculty, whoever. So if you just like seeing this, if you want to support us, that's all you need to do is just go and subscribe. It costs you nothing, and we appreciate it.
Yep, like Colin said, subscribe on YouTube. We're looking to hit that 300 mark. That was kind of my goal before the season, so we're right there, and hopefully we can get it before the season ends. And it seems like we will, but yeah, it all comes down to all the fans support out there. So we appreciate all your support. So yeah, if you like the show, be sure to follow us on. Excuse me, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us both on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you consume social media. We're pretty much there. So be sure to follow us, interact with us, and that'll get the show out to more and more people. So until Sunday, we'll be back on Sunday night, and hopefully Willie will be joining us Sunday night. I believe he will be. But until then, we appreciate everyone's time this evening. Let's go out and get this win on Senior Day. It's the last home game of the year, so it's most people's last chance to check out Ball State in person. So if you're able to go up to Muncie, get there, be loud, be chirping, wear your red, do whatever you got to do to get yourself ready. And until Sunday night, chirp, chirp, and go Cardinals.